Everyone told me I was the black sheep. They said my music was too loud, my clothes were too worldly, and that I was a danger to my cousins. Well, it's 2026, and guess what? The Golden Boys are finally waking up. I'm Amy King, and I've been waiting a lifetime for this moment. I've watched Jason and Maddie trade the pews for the open road, swapping IBLP rules for motorcycles and a life that Jim Bob can't control. You've seen the photos, you've heard the rumors about the tattoos and the modern shifts, but you haven't heard the truth from someone who actually knows what happens when the cameras turn off. Today, I'm breaking my silence. We're going deep, 1 hour of raw, unfiltered truth about the 2026 Duggar revolution. From Jason's rebel transformation to the secret rifts tearing the big house apart. Buckle up, because the fun cousin is about to tell you everything they didn't want you to know. For years, I was the one they whispered about. Don't be like Amy, they'd say. She wears jeans. She listens to rock music. She's too loud. I was the warning story parents told their kids in the IBLP. But fast forward to February 2026 and look around. The big house isn't the fortress it used to be. The cracks are everywhere. And honestly, it's about time. I'm Amy King, and if you followed this family, you know I've never been good at keeping secrets, especially the ones that hurt people. I've watched my cousins grow up in a pressure cooker of rules, performance, and fear, but 2026 is different. There's a new energy in the air. I see it in Jason, I see it in Maddie, and I see it in the way they look at the camera now. They aren't performing anymore. This isn't just about a haircut or a motorcycle. It's about a total internal revolution. I'm here to tell you the story of how the walls finally started coming down from the perspective of the girl who was always on the outside looking in. Let's talk about Jason. For a long time, he was the quiet one, the son who just did his work, built his houses, and didn't make waves. But even the calmest water has a breaking point. In 2026, we're seeing a Jason Duggar that Jim Bob never saw coming. You can only push someone into a mold for so long before they realize it's not their shape. I remember seeing the first signs of him pulling away. It wasn't just a physical move, it was a mental one. He started questioning why he had to ask permission for things that grown men should decide for themselves. That breaking point came when he realized that the big house rules were designed to keep him small, not keep him safe. He saw his older sisters, Jill and Ginger, finding their own paths and realized he could do the same. This wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow, steady fire of independence that finally burned through the ropes of his upbringing. Now, when he looks at the camera, you don't see a boy waiting for approval. You see a man who's already made up his mind. Then came Maddie. If Jason was the fuel, Maddie was the match. In the Duggar world, you're supposed to marry someone who fits the IBLP checklist. Someone submissive, someone who won't challenge the status quo. But Maddie, she's a breath of fresh, modern air. She didn't grow up in the same high control environment, and she brought a perspective that Jason desperately needed. She showed him that you can be a person of faith without living in fear. She was the one who encouraged him to embrace his own style and his own voice. From her sleeveless wedding dress to the way she carries herself with confidence, Maddie has been a massive influence on Jason's transformation. She's not rebellious in a bad way. She's just authentic. She's teaching him that a marriage is a partnership, not a hierarchy where the husband is the boss and the wife is the silent shadow. Watching them together in 2026, it's clear Maddie isn't just his wife, she's his partner in freedom. And believe me, that is the most rebellion thing a Duggar boy could ever do. No, let's get into the stuff that really has the internet and Jim Bob talking. The motorcycles and the rumors of ink. Growing up in that family, a motorcycle was seen as a symbol of a worldliness, and tattoos? Well, flat out no. But in 2026, Jason is riding a modern black bike and showing off a look that is pure rebellion by Duggar standards. You've seen the photos, the leather jackets, the modern haircuts, and that rumored tattoo sleeve. Whether the ink is permanent or just a statement, the message is the same. I own my body. To an outsider, it's just a guy on a bike. But to someone like me who knows the rules of the big house, it's a massive middle finger to the system. It's Jason saying he's done with the polished version of himself. He's choosing the open road over the pews. He's trading the safe, boring life his father planned for him for something high energy, something real, and something completely his own. And honestly, he's never looked happier. This might be the most important part of the story, even if it's the least flashy. The money. For decades, Jim Bob held onto his kids by holding onto the checkbook. If you wanted a house, if you wanted a car, if you wanted to eat, you had to follow the rules. But Jason, he's a builder. He's got skills. And in 2026, he's officially cut the financial cord. He's built his own business, separate from the family name and the family payroll. He's not waiting for a handout that comes with strings attached. When you don't owe your father your mortgage, you don't have to listen when he tells you how to dress or who to talk to. This financial independence is the real reason the walls are coming down. Jason and Maddie are building their own future on their own terms with their own money. Without that checkbook to hold over his head, Jim Bob has lost his biggest lever of control. Jason is finally a free man, and that is a shift that is going to change the Duggar family forever. If those walls in Tonatown could talk, they'd be screaming right now. By early 2026, the big house isn't the united front it used to be. It's a house divided. There is a clear line being drawn in the sand. On one side, you have the siblings who are still drinking the IBLP Kool-Aid. And on the other, you have the ones like Jason who are saying, enough is enough. The tension at family gatherings is thick enough to cut with a knife. You've got the loyalists who are terrified of upsetting Jim Bob. And then you've got the rebels who show up in their modern clothes talking about their independent lives. It's creating a massive rift. I've heard whispers of holiday dinners where the silence was deafening because nobody could agree on what was appropriate anymore. The younger sisters are caught in the middle, looking at Jason and Maddie with a mix of awe and fear. The facade is crumbling, and the rift is only getting wider as the kids realize that the world outside isn't as scary as they were told. You can leave the cult, but sometimes it takes a long time for the cult to leave you. I call it the IBLP ghost, even for someone like Jason, who is out there riding motorcycles and living his best life. Those old voices of Bill Gothard still linger in the back of the mind. The IBLP didn't just give you rules, it gave you a psychological cage. It's that voice that whispers you're failing if you aren't perfectly productive, or the guilt that hits when you do something worldly for the first time. The younger generation of Duggars is haunted by this ghost every single day. They are deconstructing years of brainwashing that taught them that their father was the voice of God. Watching Jason and Maddie navigate this in 2026 is like watching someone learn to walk again after being in a cast for 20 years. It's shaky, it's painful, but every step away from Gothard's basic principles is a step toward real life. Let's get real about the clothes. In the Duggar world, modesty was a weapon used to control women and shame men. But in 2026, the modesty war has reached a fever pitch at the big house. Maddie is leading the charge without even trying. Her style, modern chic, and sometimes showing a little shoulder or knee, is a direct violation of Michelle's keep sweet dress code. Every time a photo of Maddie and Jason surfaces online, it's a tactical strike against the old rules. It forces the family to address the fact that you can be a godly woman without wearing a denim skirt that touches the floor. Michelle and the older loyalist sisters are reportedly struggling with how to handle this worldliness without pushing Jason further away. It's a standoff. Every pair of jeans and every sleeveless top is a signal that the era of performative modesty is officially over. The girls are winning the war, one outfit at a time. When Jason and Maddie got married, it wasn't just a wedding, it was a statement. I've seen a lot of Duggar weddings, the mass produced soda and cookies in a gym kind of affairs. But Jason and Maddie's nuptials felt different. There was an energy of genuine celebration, not just a transition of ownership. The vibe was modern. The guest list included people from outside the bubble, and the joy was real. It was the first time a Duggar boys' wedding felt like it belonged to the couple, not the brand. That day changed the family dynamic forever. It showed the younger brothers that they didn't have to follow the standard operating procedure for their own futures. It set a new bar for independence. Jim Bob might have been smiling for the cameras, but you could see in his eyes that he knew he was losing another soldier to the real world. The 2026 reality for Jim Bob Duggar is a tough pill to swallow. He is losing his grip. For decades, he was the king of his castle, the CEO of the family brand, and the final word on everything. But as his kids get older and more financially stable, his throne is starting to look pretty empty. He can't use the show as a carrot anymore because the cameras have stopped rolling in the way they used to. He can't use money as a stick because sons like Jason are building their own bank accounts. Every time another child chooses a worldly path or speaks out, Jim Bob's power diminishes just a little more. He's becoming a patriarch without a kingdom. The umbrella of protection is full of holes, and for the first time in his life, Jim Bob is realizing that you can't force someone to love you or follow you if you've built your relationship on control instead of connection. You might think life for the rebel Duggars is all about pews and prayer meetings, but in 2026, there's a side to their lives the cameras never caught. I call it the hidden party culture. When the cousins and siblings who have found their freedom get together, the vibe is completely different. Where we're not talking about wild Hollywood style rages, but real human connection. There's music that isn't hymns, there's laughter that isn't forced. And yes, sometimes there's even a toast to freedom. These gatherings are the first time these kids are experiencing what it's like to just be without a script or a chaperone watching their every move. It's in these private moments away from the big house that the real bonds are formed. They aren't just siblings anymore. They're friends choosing to be in each other's lives because They actually like who they've become outside the bubble. For years, social media was a tool for the Duggar brand, a way to show off matching outfits and staged family photos. But in 2026, it's become the siblings' biggest weapon for independence. Take Jason and Maddie, for example. They didn't wait for a press release to announce their life. They met on Instagram. They shared their journey on their own terms, and they used their platforms to signal exactly where they stand. Every post that shows a modern outfit, a trip to a secular venue, or a supportive comment on a rebel siblings photo is a calculated move. They are reclaiming their own narratives. They're showing the world and their father that they don't need a TV network or a family PR team to tell their story. By building their own digital kingdoms, they've made Jim Bob's old school control over the family image completely obsolete. The Duggar brand is being dismantled one post at a time, and the kids are the ones holding the phone. Oh, I can't talk about the boys leaving without talking about the shadow that still hangs over the family. Anna, it's a tragedy. Honestly, while the younger brothers are out here buying motorcycles and finding their voices, Anna is still sitting in that same heavy silence, trapped by the same rules that the boys are finally breaking. My take. It's heartbreaking to see the contrast. You have Jason and Maddie building a partnership based on equality, while Anna is still tied to a legacy of trauma and a husband who took everything from her. I've always said that the system is designed to protect the men and break the women, and Anna is the ultimate proof of that. The boys are escaping because they can, but the shadow of what happened to Anna serves as a constant reminder of why they have to leave. Her silence is the loudest warning for why the IBLP umbrella is more like a lead weight. One of the biggest surprises of 2026 is seeing how Jason has integrated into the real Arkansas. He's not just sticking to the IBLP approved construction circles anymore. He's moving into modern business, secular networking, and building relationships with people who couldn't care less about the counting on fame. This worldly shift is huge. By stepping outside the Duggar business bubble, Jason is proving that he can succeed on his own merit. He's becoming a respected builder in his own right, not just Jim Bob's son. He's showing the younger brothers that there is a path to success that doesn't involve being a reality star or a church employee. This move into the secular world is the final nail in the coffin of Jim Bob's financial leverage. Once you realize you can thrive in the world you were told to fear, there's no reason to ever go back to the cage. The atmosphere at the big house during the 2026 emergency meetings is reportedly intense. Jim Bob isn't used to being told no, especially not by his sons. I've heard about some of these sit downs where the patriarchs tried to reel the rebels back in using the old tactics of guilt and spiritual authority. But guess what? It's not working anymore. The feuds are becoming more public and the arguments are getting louder. The younger sons aren't just taking the lectures in silence, they're pushing back. They're asking the hard questions about where the money went and why they were raised under such a heavy hand. These family meetings, which used to be about unity, have turned into battlegrounds for the family's future. Jim Bob is fighting to keep the past alive while Jason and the others are already living in the future. It's a war of wills. And for the first time, the king is losing. You can't talk about Jason's breakout without giving credit where it's due. His sisters, Jill and Jinger, were the ones who took the first hardest hits. They were the ones who proved that you could walk away, tell your story, and the sky wouldn't fall down. In 2026, you can see their fingerprints all over Jason's confidence. Jill showed him how to set boundaries even when it's painful. Jinger showed him how to untangle the religious trauma and find a faith that actually feels like grace. Watching his sisters stand their ground gave Jason the blueprint he needed to build his own exit ramp. He saw them survive the public backlash and the family shunning, and he realized that the freedom on the other side was worth every bit of the struggle. The older sisters didn't just leave, they paved a road for every brother and sister who wanted to follow. Jason isn't the first to leave, but he's making sure he won't be the last. One of the biggest shocks to the Duggar system in 2026 has been the influence of Maddie's family. They aren't IBLP and they don't play by Jim Bob's rules. This is a massive culture clash. For the first time, Jason has a second family that shows him a different way to live, a way that doesn't involve constant surveillance or performance. Maddie's family represents the normal world that the Duggars were always taught to fear. But instead of darkness, Jason found light, support, and unconditional love. This contrast has made the cracks in his own upbringing even more obvious. When he spends time with them, he's not a brand asset, he's just Jason. That's a powerful thing. It's hard to keep someone in a cage once they've tasted what it's like to be part of a family that loves you for who you are, not for how well you follow the rules. Maddie's family has become his safe haven, and Jim Bob is finding out that he can't compete with genuine, string-free connection. By 2026, the younger Duggars have a new goal. They want to be normal. For years, they were put on a pedestal as the face of a movement, but that pedestal felt more like a prison. Jason and Maddie are actively tearing that pedestal down. They aren't trying to be reality TV stars, they're trying to be neighbors, business owners, and friends. They've realized that being a famous for being perfect is a trap. They are embracing their flaws, their modern interests, and their privacy. You won't see them signing up for another wholesome spin off anytime soon. They want to be known for their work and their character, not for how many siblings they have or what their father says on the news. Tearing down that pedestal is the ultimate act of reclaiming their humanity. They are trading the spotlight for a real life, and honestly, it's the best deal they ever made. Don't get me wrong, freedom isn't free. There's a heavy price for walking away from a family like this. Jason has had to deal with the cold shoulder at family events, the whispered judgments, and the loss of the only world he knew for 20 years. There's a grief that comes with realizing your parents' love was conditional. In 2026, the emotional toll is real. You see it in the moments when the rebellion isn't just a motorcycle ride, but a quiet, difficult conversation about the past. Jason and Maddie have had to be incredibly strong to stand their ground, while the patriarch tries to guilt trip them back into submission. But the price of staying, the price of losing your soul to someone else's control, was always higher. Jason has paid his dues, and while the rift with his father might never fully heal, the peace he's found in his own home is worth every penny of that price. So, where do we go from here? As I look at the family in February 2026, my final prediction is the Duggar empire is finished, but the Duggar individuals are just getting started. Jason and Maddie are the new faces of this family, not the polished, scripted versions we saw on TV, but real people living unfiltered lives. The walls are down, the secrets are out, and the rebellion is becoming the new normal. I expect more siblings to follow Jason's lead, realizing that they don't have to choose between their faith and their freedom. As for me, I'll still be the fun cousin cheering them on from the sidelines, finally seeing the family I love become the people they were always meant to be. The future isn't a script, it's an open road. And for Jason, Maddie, and the rest of us, it's finally time to ride. I'm Amy King, and thank you for finally listening to the truth.